A new event is upon us in Star Citizen, and in this video I'm going to be going over the Frontier Fighters finale event, and the best way to do it. This event is sort of similar to the Race for Stand event. There are two factions you can work for, Headhunters and CFP, and like Race for Stand, you can work for both of them at the same time. There are three phases in this event. Currently we are at Phase 1, also known as Recon. Phase 2 starts on October 28th, and Phase 3 starts on November 6th. And the event will end when the next update comes out, so you have about 3 weeks to complete this event. Each phase has its own missions, so for Phase 1, the main focus is Recon, also known as getting data pads. As the event progresses, new phases will unlock and new missions will be released, but you can still do the previous phase missions if you want, so there's no rush if you're not done by the 28th or the 6th. There's a new journal entry called Hunt the Frontier Fighters, and in it you can track your progression and global progression for both CFP and Headhunters. Currently, as of this recording, it's neck and neck, with Headhunters having a slight edge, and the reward for whoever wins in the end is currently unknown, or if there is any reward. Honestly, I don't care who wins. To complete each phase, you need to earn a certain number of points, and you get points by doing missions that correspond to those phases. So right now, you can only get points for Phase 1, because Recon missions are the only missions that are available. When Phase 2 unlocks, you'll get new missions, and completing those missions will count towards Phase 2, and so on for Phase 3. It's also important to note that doing these missions won't affect your existing reputation with Headhunters or CFP, so you can do them without worrying about pissing off either of them. Now onto the missions themselves. As I've said earlier, right now we can only do Recon missions, so let's go over them. There's the 24K missions, the 44K missions, and the 71K missions. Now they're all basically the same mission, the only difference is the location. You can do these missions at Pyro or Stand. In Pyro there are two 24K missions, one 44K mission, and one 71K mission, and most of them take place at an asteroid base, full of turrets and enemy fighters. So you're going to need to bring a hover bike in order to do these missions. The other 24K mission will take place at an outpost on a moon or planet. Meanwhile, Stand has 6 missions, 2 24K, 2 44K, and 2 71K missions. So already Stand's looking a lot better in terms of difficulty and availability, and thus because we're talking about the best way to do these missions, we're going to focus on Stand. The 24K missions take place at a derelict outpost, with very little defenses and a few frontier fighters scattered around the area. The 44K missions take place in a bunker, and the 71K missions take place in forward operating bases or FOBs. The missions are either collect a datapad from a dead Headhunter or CFP member, or kill the commander to get his datapad. If you're doing the retrieve the datapad from the dead guy, when approaching the location, 4 investigation points will pop up. The dead body with the datapad will be in one of those investigation points, so you don't have to go through all 4 of them. If you find it, take the datapad and leave. Killing the commander is more straightforward, obviously. One thing to note, despite the fact that you are getting a datapad, it's highly recommended, nay, almost mandatory, to bring a backpack, because the datapad cannot fit inside of your chest or leg armor, despite them clearly having the space for it. In both cases, you drop off the datapad into the freight elevator at the designated low-orbiting space station, and you're done. And the missions give different amount of points towards your journal progression. 24K missions will give 50 points, 44K missions will give 75 points, and 71K missions will give 100 points. To be completely frank here, the best option would be to do the 71K missions for obvious reasons. More points, faster progression, and more money. Ironically, the 44K Recon missions are harder than the 71K missions because those bunker turrets will tear your ship a new asshole, and they're pretty hard to destroy. Not to mention, you can't target the enemy commander with your ship. You will actually have to go inside the bunker and use your gun. Conversely, the FOBs are guarded by a single missile turret, which you can destroy pretty easily, or avoid entirely by parking somewhere where the missiles can't hit you, and you can kill the enemy commander with your ship, along with a bunch of other frontier fighters nearby. But hey, you know, that's fine. I like the convenience. To complete Phase 1, you need 1500 points, which is basically 15 71K missions, which shouldn't be difficult. It might take a day, maybe a few, depending on availability. The best way to complete these missions quickly would be to accept all the 71K missions. That way you'll save yourself the trip of having to repeatedly go back and forth to the space station. At least this way you can hand it in all at once. That's 400 points in one go. It is riskier, of course. You do run the risk of losing everything if you die or the game shits itself, but I'm here to finish it quick, not play it safe. The best place to do these missions would either be an ArcCorp or Crusader, because those missions won't spawn on planets with higher gravity and thicker atmospheres like Hurston and Microtech, and there's a higher chance of overlap, especially ArcCorp. In a way, it'll be like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. or 3 birds in this example. The only downside is that a lot of people will notice too, so mission availability might be more scarce compared to Hurston and Microtech. And a ship with a medbed, like a Terrapin Medical, or even an Ursa Medevac, or what most people like to call it, a NURSA, could come in handy for these kind of missions. Next is Phase 2, or the Siege Phase. The Siege Phase has 5 missions that are variations of either destroying medgel canisters or ambushing a ship. The destroy medgel canister contracts are only available in Stan, so you can only do ambush missions in Pyro. There are only 2 destroy medgel missions. The 24K missions involve destroying them at an 8 shelter, and the 44K missions involve destroying them in a bunker. Now I think this mission would be more worth it if you could steal the medgels instead of destroying it, but I don't think you can do it though. For ambush missions, the 24K mission has you ambushing a light fighter, the 44K one has you ambushing a medium fighter, and the 71K mission has you ambushing a Cutlass Black. Of course, to do this quickly, just gun for the objective and ignore everyone else. I'm surprised they didn't use a tougher ship like a Constellation, because the Cutlass is pretty easy to kill if you use a Constellation or Corsair, even if it has escorts around it. Phase 2 requires you to get 1750 points to get the rewards, and the fastest way to complete it is to do the ambush missions. If you complete the 44K and 71K missions, you only need to repeat this process 10 times to complete Phase 2. And finally, Phase 3, also known as the Takedown Phase. This mission will task you in assisting with destroying a Frontier Fighter's Polaris. It's a server-wide event, basically like the Hunt the Polaris mission from the Invictus event back in Alpha 411. You have to ping satellites and destroy the bad ones like the patrol missions, clear out enemies that show up, and keep doing this until the next phase in the mission where you go to the ambush location and kill the Polaris along with any Frontier Fighters that show up. The contract gives over 2.5 million AOEC and 225 points towards Phase 3. If you can accept both CFP and Headhunter's Huntdown missions at the same time, you should do it of course. Phase 3 requires 2,250 points to get the rewards, so you guessed it, you need to do it 10 times and you'll get the reward. So what are the rewards? For Phase 1 is some clothing, for Headhunters and CFP, assuming you did them both. Phase 2 is a Greycat MTC livery for Headhunters or CFP, and Phase 3 rewards are liveries for the Crusader Spirit and Anvil Arrow. Compared to the Race for Stand event, I think it's an improvement. I mean, cargo hauling isn't a fun gameplay loop for me, and it's less broken right off the bat. That and the race is much tighter. There's not an obvious winner right out the gate, and it takes much less time to get all the rewards. So I don't see there being an extension as we near the end of the event. And once you're done and got all the rewards, there isn't much reason to continue doing these missions, unless you want one of the factions to win, or you're doing it for the money. This event will mark the conclusion of Amelia Boyd and the Frontier Fighters. Will they show up again? Only CIG knows. Maybe they'll pop up again, but somewhere else whenever CIG feels like it. If you made this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed or found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe and ring that bell. I'm going to be checking out more of Alpha 432. There's a new cave system in the Onyx facilities that leads to a new boss fight. There's also the overhaul to salvage, all that good stuff. And in the next update we'll be seeing a brand new star system, the Nyx system, hopefully. Nothing's ever certain with CIG and Star Citizen, but that is the plan, to release the first iteration of the Nyx system, which we'll probably see in November, barring any exceptional circumstances. Maybe the Nyx system is where we'll see the Frontier Fighters after this event, assuming CIG ever decides to bring them back. Speaking of the Onyx facilities though, if you want to know the absolute fastest way to complete Project Hyperion to get those reagents and catalysts for Wicklow, or you want to get a lot of cash as fast as possible, then I highly recommend you watch this video right here.